first thing we're going to do is upgrade the system. We'll say sudo apt update. So it's been a while since I have used this distribution of Debian, so who knows how long it will take. And it looks like some things are going to be upgraded. I'm just going to say sudo apt upgrade and let it update and upgrade the entire system as it's doing. So it's almost done. And then what we're going to do is, after this is completed upgrading, we will actually install Samba. So I'm just going to pause this video while this finishes. Now, as you can see, we upgraded, and we can see some of the things that it upgraded. It upgraded a bunch of things in LibreOffice, and looks like it upgraded a bunch of things with the system, or the X system of graphics. So that is good. Now now that we have upgraded and updated everything, we are going to install sudo. So the only command that we're going to need, at least for apt-based Linux systems, is sudo apt install Samba common bin or common binary, and we're going to press enter, and we're going to type in yes to accept the defaults, and it's installing everything. And as I said, we're just going to be accepting all the defaults right here, and now we can see that Samba has been installed. Not too shabby, eh? Basically, literally one command. First thing we're going to do is check on the status of the Samba daemon, or the Samba service. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen, and then I'm going to run the command systemctl status, and the name of the service is SMB D, because D refers to the fact that it is a service that is running in the background. We can see that it is active and running. So we can check on the status. We can do sudo stop SMBD, and I just want to show you what that looks like. And then if we did systemctl status, we could see that it says it's inactive and dead. And we can press Q for quit, and then we can, sorry about this, we can then do sudo systemctl restart SMBD, and now it's restarted, and we can get back to checking the status of SMBD, and we can see that it is active and running. So there, for systemctl, there is restart, start, and stop, and status. Now there is a bunch of things that are occurring in the background right here. When we install Samba, we can see that it does install the service, and we can see it's enabled. And as I told you before, when it's enabled like this, that means if somebody reboots while the service has been started, that means after it's rebooted, it goes on again, even without you explicitly telling it to start. So what I mean to say is, if you're using your Linux box as a server, which everyone within the sound of my voice should be doing, then you don't have to worry about, well, what happens if there's a power outage. Now, obviously, if there's a power outage, your box is going to be off. But as soon as your box gets turned on again, as soon as there's power, that actually activates the box, then all the services, when it says enabled, that service will actually just start working automatically without the user telling it to. So anyways, now if we type in clear and then go to ls and then etc samba, we can see that there are now 3 files so when we install Samba, it creates this directory Samba, and within the directory there are these 3 elements in it. Now the thing that we're going to be concentrating mostly on is smb.conf. So if we actually typed in cat, which will stream the smb.conf file, and just so you know, the conf files, the configuration files, a lot of configuration files are in the etc folder. So for example, a couple weeks ago we installed Apache. Well, the apache2.conf file was actually in the etc folder, specifically etc apache2 and then apache2.conf. Same thing with Samba. So we'll go ahead and press enter, and we can see this is the configuration file for etc. It's got a lot of things in it, a lot of potential parameters parameters that you can manipulate, and we call them, global settings. And because there's only a few of them we're actually going to set, let's go ahead and create our own configuration file. Now, what I'll show you is that the number one thing you should always do when you're configuring something from scratch, because you do get a template, which this is essentially is. It's a template. You do get a template to start out. Never delete the template. Always set it up as a backup. That way you have something to go by. And plus, what's priceless about this as a template is it gives you the syntax. So the syntax is very, very important. So for example, you may not know where to start with your global configuration. Well, it says it right here. You start with an open bracket and then type in the word global and then close the bracket. And then there's actual commands here that will actually have the computer do something. And you can see here that, for example, you can see the syntax right here, which by syntax, of course, we all know that I mean how something should be written and whether or not there should be a space, whether or not it should be caps, and all that. All that can be a mystery unless you Google it. And the problem with just Googling it is that you're not sure what flavor distribution you're using. You don't know what version that you're using. I'll give you a confession. I was actually programming a LAMP for a customer, Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So essentially the starting of what we're trying to do that we've been doing these last few weeks. And I was using a PHP book, and none of the PHP commands in the book would translate to the version I was using. And after a month, I just threw the book away, or I lost it, or whatever. I wound up just getting other sources that work. And for the longest time, I was like, I bought this book. It was so expensive back then, and lo and behold, I find out that I was using PHP 5.0 and the book I bought was PHP 4.0. So because of that, there was a lot of syntactical little intricacies that I wasn't aware of. So anyways, having this config file, never ever delete this config file or any config file. Always make a backup of it. As I said, the first thing we need to do is we need to take our configuration file and copy it and make it as a backup file, because we don't want to lose that configuration file. So we're going to be using the move command. So we're going to use it in the context of just renaming it the backup file. So we'll say sudo mv or move, and what happens is if we make a reference to the configuration file in the same directory, that simply renames it. So we're going to say move, and then this is the file we're going to move, smb.conf, and because we're going to be quote-unquote moving it to in the same directory, we're actually renaming it. So smb config, and then we'll just say .bu for backup, and it's asking me for my password. So now, if we this time list all the files in the Etsy Samba, it didn't delete the smb.conf, it actually renamed it smb.conf.bu per this command. So that, guess what? This gives us an opportunity to make a new configuration file, which is what we're going to do right now. This gives us an opportunity to create our own Samba or smb.conf. So we'll say sudo vim smb.conf. I sure hope this does have Vim, because I haven't used this distro in a while, and it does. So we're going to insert, and then we're going to put in the following configuration based on the config file. So we're going to start off with a global configuration, and that starts off with the global keyword in straight brackets. Server string is the description of this server, and we're just going to call it file server. Now we can define our work group, and that's work group is equal to, and I just called it green field, just a fake work group. Security equals user. Map to guest equals bad user. Name resolve order is equal to bcast host. And include, and this is what this include keyword is, what we will include in this configuration. What that actually means is that it's going to link itself to another configuration file which we will be creating, and instead of consolidating everything in one file, what we're going to do is we're going to separate the configuration files for the purposes of modularity. And I know if anyone has done any engineering, coding engineering, you know that being modular with your code and really anything else is key to its success. So we're going to include the shares.configuration file, and that's what we're going to do next. Okay, I already did the public files right here. I'm not going to go through it line by line like I did in my initial description. Just know that the path has changed because the PowerPoint just represented what I thought I was going to utilize as the directory, but keep in mind I just chose this different directory, and also keep in mind that I haven't even created this directory yet, but I guess I will have to. But the other thing is, for the protected files, as you saw, I'm just going to use this same format. The only difference is the path will be different. Public will be changed to private, and writable will be changed to no. And I did want to show you that in Vim, how to basically copy and paste. There is no copy in Vim. There's something called the yank. So what you do is you highlight everything that you want to quote unquote yank, and you literally type in Y on the keyboard, and it says 11 files yanked right here. And then you go down where you want to actually paste everything, press escape, because right now I'm in insert mode. You got to press escape to get out of insert mode, and this is like the other mode in which you can give it some global settings or whatever. You type in P for paste, and it does paste everything for you. Type in I for insert, and then we can go to private. We can type in public. We can remove public and type in private, and the path is going to be different. Public, share, and then for private files, we will make it intern resources for our lovely interns to be able to grab, but no, just so that it's private file. So that means for writable, it is by default no. Okay, so now we have finished our our files configuration, our share configuration, if you will. What we're going to do is we're going to type in escape :WQ to write it. Now what we're going to do, we're going to add the SMB group. So we'll say sudo group add --system SMB group. So what we're saying is that we are specifically adding the SMB group not as a regular daily user group, but as a system group, such that if we did cat etc group, so that actually will list all the groups, but we are going to filter the group simply for SMB group, and we can see that it gives us the group number of 993, which is below the 1000. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to create the SMB group as a user, or excuse me, we're going to utilize, or we're going to create the SMB user itself. So we'll say sudo user add system, and then we're going to use --no create home group SMB group -s bin false SMB user. Okay, what this does is it creates a system user with no home directory. The group command sets the primary group to be SMB group. We don't want this user to log in at all. No one can log in as this user, as this is just a system user, and the name of the user is SMB user. Now we can use the tail command to get the last 10 or 11 lines or so of all the users mentioned in Etsy password, and we can see that SMB user is listed. That's the last user that was created, and of course it has the user number of 994, and we see, and we see that the group is this group right here, so that is consistent with everything we have done so far. Now we're going to say sudo change ownership, or chown -r for recursive, and we're going to change the ownership of SMB user and SMB group to the share file right here. Oh, you know what? No such file directory because your instructor forgot to create it. So we're going to create it right now. Okay, don't do what your instructor did. I made a mistake. I put my shares.conf in my home directory. So we really wanted it in the Samba directory, because if we do list Etsy Samba dot just that, we can see that everything's in here. And oh, you know what? Everything, I did both shares.conf and smb.conf, and I put that in my home directory. So we're going to just move these into the Samba directory. So move mv samba.conf. We're going to move that to Etsy Samba directory. And it probably will want, it's probably going to be a sudo command. And then we'll also move the shares comp to Etsy /Samba folder as well. So now, if we do an Etsy Samba, everything is in that folder. Now, what we also want to do is we want to do cat and then shares.conf, and we can see that the path is share public. So what we want to do is create a file. So we're going to do make dir -p, because the parent directory hasn't been made yet, and we're going to say Etsy let's see, Etsy Samba share public. Permission denied, so it's asking for sudo, and it was able to do it. Now we don't need the -p, so we're going to say Etsy share private, as per what this is saying. And so now when we go to ls Etsy Samba, we have the share folder, which is what we want. So now we can go back to this command, if I can ever go back to this command, and press enter. No such, okay, it's because I'm not in that directory. So we'll say Etsy Samba share, and it took the command this time. Hey, there's one for the good guys, right? Okay, now that we finally have everything in the right directory and everything, we can now test this configuration. So we'll do sudo systemctl start smbd, and to really look at it, we can see what the status is. So we'll say systemctl status SMBD, and it says enabled and active and running. Okay, to get to the Samba share for on my MacBook, I go to Windows, or excuse me, I go to Network, and there is my share right there. And if I click on it, it says connecting, and we have private and public files. So that's about as far as you need to take it. Otherwise, we are good.